Good morning. I have with me today Noelle Stacy, Lindsay Young, Courtney Anderson, Shelley Brady, and Paul Anderson. By February 15th, 2023, 33 Ukrainian monuments had been damaged in the attacks from Russia. This is a massive cultural loss, and it seems like a lot until you realize that the same year, 73 monuments were removed or renamed in the United States alone. My goal with this speech is to inform you all of the pros and cons of the preservation of historical monuments. I believe myself to be credible on this topic because I have experience with monuments. I've done my research on this topic, and I have the ability to see both sides of the argument. I have 4 main points for you today. Monuments show us the glory of the past. They create beauty and tourism in our cities. However, they can stand for ideals that society no longer believes in. And the land that they stand on could be useful for more practical purposes. To begin, I'm going to give you the most common arguments for the preservation of these monuments. Monuments can stand for the glory of the past. According to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, monuments can celebrate our triumphs. One only needs to look to some of the most popular monuments to see exactly how much this is true. Mount Rushmore, somewhere I've personally been to, shows America's greatness. The Sistine Chapel shows the human race's capacity for devotion. The Eiffel Tower shows our innovation and industrial prowess. Even symbols of arguably oppressive nations, like the Forbidden City in China, show a strong and glorious past. Now, humanity has always been drawn to the most glorious places: Jerusalem, Mecca, McDonald's. That brings me to my second point. Monuments create beauty and tourism in our cities. It doesn't take a genius to name some well-known cities, and I bet most of the ones you could list off the top of your head have some pretty well-known historical monuments. London has Big Ben, Istanbul has the Hagia Sophia. Rome has a lot more than I could list off the top of my head, but just to name a couple, the Colosseum and St. Peter's Basilica. Each of these cities brings in millions of visitors per year. According to Civitatis, a travel guide company, Rome brings in 16 million visitors per year. These numbers soar during holy events like the conclave that occurred recently. Now, so far I've discussed monuments that are integral to some of the biggest cities in the world. However, some monuments aren't so integral, and according to some arguments, some monuments shouldn't even exist. You see, some monuments can stand for ideals that society no longer believes in. For a more well-known example, the Colosseum was once the site of bloody, violent games. Now, society has obviously moved past these practices, but the symbols remain. In an interview with PBS regarding apartheid-era statues, student protester Alex Gotts stated, "I don't think we need statues to remind ourselves of what they represent." Now, not only can these monuments stand for ideals society is against, they can also stand in the way of progress. The land that they stand on could be useful for more practical things. These monuments don't provide much in the way of industry, housing, or food production, and the land could arguably be put to much better use. Detroit is no stranger to clearing the way for progress. Much like many of our world's most popular monuments, the city is crumbling and decaying. The fall of the automotive industry in the United States has led to the city becoming a ghost town. The National Theater, one of the city's most popular landmarks, was recently demolished, the facade deconstructed to make way for things like community gardens and other things that benefit the city more. A history of the city written by Bella Contracting Services claims that the reason for this deconstruction is as follows: decades of economic stagnation coupled with major shifts in industry away from manufacturing. The fall of the city's economy has necessitated the destruction of some very historic buildings, but the citizens of Detroit understand that this is necessary in order for the advancement of the city. The question is this: what's the priority? Progress or our past? To forget our mistakes or to learn from them? That's up for you to decide. I had 4 main points for you today. Monuments show us the glory of the past. They create beauty and tourism in our cities. However, they can stand for ideals that society no longer believes in. And the land that they stand on could be useful for more practical things. My goal with this speech was to inform you all of the pros and cons of the preservation of historical monuments. The damage to the monuments in Ukraine is inarguably a cultural loss. What society has yet to decide on is whether the same is true for the intentional removal of monuments in the United States and all around the world. Thank you.